Everyone. Good afternoon, everyone. It's an honor to welcome you to this very important discussion promoting children's rights and inclusion in the digital age. Today, we address one of the most urgent challenges and opportunities of time, ensuring that children who are the most vulnerable members of our society are protected, empowered, and are included in the ever-evolving digital landscape. The journey towards child online protection has been one of the progressive one and very awakening. The Child Online Protection Initiative by the ITU laid a foundation with its 5 strategic pillars, which were inspired by the global cybersecurity agenda. This was followed up by the We Protect Alliance, which provided a critical framework in a form of model national response, helping member states and countries to develop the necessary capabilities to tackle online threats against children. A groundbreaking milestone came in 2022 with the release of the UN Convention on the Rights of the Child, General Comment number 25, on children's rights in the digital environment. This document effectively dispelled the notion often cited in developing countries that child online safety is an emerging issue. It offered us a global standard to reframe child online protection as a universal and urgent obligation. However, as we reflect on the last 2 decades of digital transformation culminating into the next year's WSIS plus 20, we must acknowledge that child online safety is now critical than ever. At the beginning of digital age, the issue was not as pronounced as it is now. Today, however, the risks are real, persistent, and evolving. We cannot afford to fold our arms or throw them in the air in despair. The stakes are too high, and the future of our children demands action, innovation, and accountability. We already possess the tools, the frameworks, and the collaborative mechanism to protect children online. But these must be implemented with the intentionality and commitment thereof. The way forward requires a paradigm shift towards safety by design, privacy by design, child rights by design, those forming the fundamentals. These efforts cannot succeed in isolation. The complexity of the digital landscape demands robust multi-stakeholder approach, bringing together governments, tech companies, civil society, the community or the society at large, and the children as main stakeholders to the discussion table. At the same time, we must resist the tendency to combine children with youth. Children require unique protection, tailored strategies, and a recognition of their peculiar vulnerabilities and rights. To help us unpack this conversation this afternoon, we have 5 experts for the panel discussion. I will give them the floor to introduce themselves, a minute each. We have some online, so it's a hybrid format we're using. We have Naha, Janatu, Gabriel, and Samaila. So Ahita first.
Thank you so much. Hi, everyone. Good afternoon. Good to see you all post-lunch. I am Ahita. I'm the coordinator of India Youth IGF. It's a platform recognized by the UN IGF that works extensively on empowering young people in the space of internet governance in the country in India. And in that regard, there's been a lot of interaction with young individuals across the country from different cultures and economies. And I hope to present that perspective today in our discussion. Thank you.
Yeah. Hi, I'm Nahza from Maldives. I'm representing Women in Tech Maldives, an NGO, a civil society organization in Maldives. Also, I'm a part of Maldives IGF, which we recently was established. Uh, we are working a community group, yeah, actually. So we are also working to establish, strengthen, formulated, sort of trying to establish a safer digital environment, especially for the kids as well. And the thing is that since we are geographically dispersed island, our component in the awareness section is quite high. So looking forward for this panel discussion.
Right. Thank you. Janelle too.
Good afternoon, everybody. This is Dr. Department of Public Administration, Kumila University.
Okay. Gabriel.
Salams, everybody. My name is Gabriel Karsan. I'm the coordinator of the African Parliamentarian Network on Internet Governance, but also active in the space of the Africa Youth IGF, as well as the founding director of the Emerging Youth Initiative. My work intersects in policy, society, as well as the role of young people and children in shaping the digital institution. I'm looking forward to our discussion.
Right. Samaila.
Thank you so much. My name is Samail Hassan Baku. I am the security evangelist at Code for Africa, which is an African-wide non-profit. And I'm also the director of communication at the Cybersecurity Experts Association of Nigeria. So most of my work revolves around user awareness, education, training, policy development, and things like that. I'm looking forward to learning from everyone here in this session. Thank you.
Okay. So thank you, my wonderful panelists. Because you all come from different backgrounds and all that, we would like to understand what actually is happening in your country to ensure that children and young people are safeguarded. So, for instance, Maldives, what strategies do you have in place to check cyberbullying, online harassment in general, online grooming, and every other thing? Thank you. They didn't hear? It's not working? It's working. Okay. So, who is taking first?
I'm fine.
Okay, that's right.
In the context of Maldives, actually, everything is sort of new over there because we are still on the in the baby steps. Like we are growing our cyber awareness, cyberspace over there. So like I said before, as we are in dispersed in small islands and all, reaching out our communities is always a challenge for us. So we are trying to formulate or come up with programs that we can actually accommodate on awareing our women and children. So my organization is also mostly a part of this. We are working on conducting different awareness sessions on cyber safety, online safety, how to secure their digital devices, how to make sure that the internet that they are browsing is safer for them, and also to empower women in the island communities as well. And apart from that, for children also, we are actually, as a government, is working on implying, formulating the strategies that are required for the cyberspace and the digital space. As an organization of a community-led organization, we are working with, our schools, our education system to make the children understand like what is there out in the digital space actually, how they can be how can they identify if they are being targeted for cyberbullying, how they can identify if they are being like perpetrators are waiting for them out there, and how they can identify if they are being targeted for cyber harassment or any such, because reaching out to our communities are challenging as always, because we literally have to travel to islands in order to aware these kids and parents and teachers and the local communities as well. So as an organization, a community-led organization, we have been actually working with these UNICEF, UNDP, such organizations to conducting different awareness programs and such STEM related programs where we are educating our kids to, how they can come up with critical thinking solutions like through coding and simple programmings and stuff. Yeah, that's it.
Thank you. I think you can take it. Or we go online and come back. Smiler, am I putting you on the spot?
I was just gonna say I wasn't expecting myself to go next, but it's fine. It's fine. So I didn't mention this earlier, but I'm from Nigeria. So in our country, I would say it's a bit similar to what the previous speaker just said. We still have a bit of foundational layers being put in place. So for instance, about 6 months ago, if I recall correctly, we had a session with one of the with the telecoms industry regulator, what we call the National Communications Commission, sorry, Nigerian Communications Commission, and they're putting together operating procedures basically for child online protection, and they wanted external stakeholders to be involved, so civil society, the industry experts and so on, to contribute to the drafting of those processes. And so we're part of that session. But even before then, I would say about, if I'm not mistaken, 2 or 3 years ago, we had a session with organized by Meta, MTN, I think it was NICMEC or ICMEC. It's a global organization that does stuff around child online protection and stuff like that. So we've had some of these engagements. And so from my organization's perspective, and by organization, I mean the Cybersecurity Experts Association of Nigeria, we tend to be involved in these conversations to provide our insights from the cybersecurity perspective as professionals. But then again, as internet users and as parents or elder siblings or guardians, we do have, kids that were aware use the internet, and we tend to know some of the things they experience. So even outside the cybersecurity perspective, we also have that end user perspective. So we try to share from these areas, and we go a step further. So we also engage students. We tend to go to schools. I mean, we've been doing this since maybe I think 2015 or so, going to high schools, also universities, to engage with the students, but also to engage with their teachers. Because what we found out now is that especially the kids in the private school, they tend to get easier access to gadgets and the internet at a younger age because they are more likely from well-to-do homes. And so we go to those private schools, we engage with them, and we try to explain to the students, these are some of the things you need to be aware of. Internet is nice and fun, but there are these issues. So we've done that. We've tried to engage with government. And I think those are the little contributions we've done from our perspective, and we continue to do in the new year as well.
Okay, I don't see that to be little. That's some progress. So thank you. Gabriel? If we don't have Gabriel ready, can we have Janatu?
Hello, everyone. This is Jannatul Firdaus.
When it comes to our case, in this digital age, the whole stratosphere of technology and the internet. Hello?
Hello?
Is that
Am I
Gabriel
audible?
speaking?
Yes, I was speaking.
Gabriel, can you please pause? Janatu has taken the floor, so wait for her to finish, then you take it up. Thank you.
Okay. Hello, everyone. My topic is the future of learning digitalization in primary education for sustainable development in Bangladesh. Here, I would like to express the entire challenges regarding digitalization in primary education. And globally, the digital transformation of education is changing the learning experiences, pedagogical approaches, and institutional administration. Integrating the newest digital resources into the educational institutions aims to establish a networked environment that enables students to learn in a digital format. Therefore, digitalization information facilitates students' ability to responsibly protect the environment and the economy, and the base their judgments on factual knowledge. This relationship supports a comprehensive and transformative, high quality education that affects learning outcomes and content. ICT contributes the education and human capital development. And furthermore, the challenges occurs due to the COVID-19, which break out in Bangladesh in March 2020. Uh, and and in that sense, since then the widespread closure of schools in response to COVID-19 has hindered traditional modes of education, and the focus of um, institutional activities has switched to the online approach. Um, in the recent years, actually, there has been widespread recognition of the need of digital competency at different educational levels. With its creative solution to enduring problems in education, such as access to high quality education, unequal student teachers ratio, and geographic constraint. This digital revolution is significant for poor nations like Bangladesh. As a part of National Digital Bangladesh Goal, actually, this is the election manifesto of our previous government, that is Awami government, which was introduced in 2009. Bangladesh has started towards full digital integration in education. My paper actually explores how digital technologies can improve the learning results and democratize the access to education resources and transform education delivery. And now I would like to focus on the digitalization of education. In modern society, heavily relies on technology. The digital revolution of the actually in Bangladesh perspective, it was 1990s. Here, in that year, the education system in the education system, digital transformative approach were taken into account. Digital education integrates electronic content, e-learning, VR, and social media to modernize teaching and foster digital maturity. Innovations like
Janatu?
um,
Janatu? I
okay.
Yes, I think you would have to pause there for now. We're
Okay.
focusing on what strategies are in place to ensuring that children and young people are not taken advantage of by predators. So, what strategy do you have in Bangladesh that is seen to cyberbullying, that is seen to exploitation and abuse, and all other forms of abuse to young people? Do you have an intervention on that to share with
Yes,
us?
yes, I
Okay,
have. I have.
kindly go
In
to that
in
for us. Thank you.
Okay. Each and every educational institution, there must be a sexual harassment prevention cell. Hmm.
Okay.
Uh, and through this, it was actually developed in 2009 through a High Court directives that each and every institution must have a sexual harassment prevention cell. And through this, each and every organization forms a sexual harassment prevention cell with 5 to 9 members, where majority are female. And in most of the case, the cyberbullying is done on the perspective of the female, and the harassment cell always working on this to resolve this issue. And Actually, this is the gender issue, and in other sense, we have lots of challenges like infrastructure. It's a pressing issue in perspective of Bangladesh, because the infrastructural capacity is not so good here, and in if the government arrange computer and the internet package, but there is lack of electricity in the rural areas of Bangladesh. That's
Okay.
a great challenge for Bangladesh.
Okay. Thank you so much, Janatu. Gabriel?
Okay, thank you so much for being with me.
Yes. Just hang in there. We're coming back to you with two other submissions.
Yes, thank you very much. Children in Africa are increasingly exposed to elements of cyberbullying, online exploitation, as well as harmful content. I might say this is a global issue. We are not immune, even though we are in baby steps of creating our infrastructure and our policies. We are not immune to the different vulnerabilities of the cyberspace, especially towards children. Now we have almost 25 under 25 Africans who use the internet deeply in their day-to-day activities. It's shaping the culture, and this is seen with postmodernism as well as with social media. In Tanzania, we are still developing a framework, but what has been done is that we have a strong regulatory authority that has deep technical standards that align with the global cross-border and online protection mechanism. Examples, an infrastructure that has IPsec, open communities, as well as a DNS protection system that really aligns with the local sector of protecting the content. But also we have a content policy that aligns on who has access to the internet and in what particular perspective, because it's still a developing country with the infrastructure still being built. So in our child online protection framework, the critical step which has been done is merging literacy with community, where parents and educators and policymakers can just come together and exchange a particular real case scenario protected in that manner. Because the first thing is also an issue that aligns issue, because we have seen that with digital literacy and inclusion, particularly to young women, the cascading effect has been great. Even in rural areas where the internet is coming now, the access comes with a little new information of breaching the divide. And Tanzania has a school connectivity program, and the school connectivity program is a package that comes with digital literacy, where they have seen that protecting the child is important, but this is also done through giving them the skill set, giving them the languages in so that when they partake or communicate and interact with the technological systems, they have an awareness system. But also we are building feedback loops, which should be open based on different demographics. And I think this is something that's still in discussion for policy. I think I'll end there now as we further our discussion.
Thank you, Gabriel. We'll come back to you later. I had to.
Yes. So hi everyone. When we talk about child rights online, so I'm going to bring in a little bit from the harms perspective. But before that, Gabriel pointed out a lot around meaningful inclusion and what has already been, with respect to access, that the challenge that we face. So this perspective that I'm going to share is through the interaction with the young people through the IGF network in India. And a lot of the young people, I'm sure the issues also overlap to other countries, talk about how there is, of course, exposure to inappropriate content online. They do experience cyberbullying extensively, but there's also unauthorized collection of their personal data. So there's a lot of privacy violations. So what is the consent mechanism? Is there enough mechanisms to ensure that it's clearly explained to them as to what is the data, why is it being used, and what kind of control that they have over it? In addition to this, we do see there could be situations of predators, manipulating the mindsets, and then also we have also come across targeted advertisement and a lot of misinformation. The other concern we see is for young people to meaningfully be there on the online space. You need the right amount of digital literacy aspects, and I think that is something that a lot of the panelists before me have highlighted. So in India, from a cyber harm perspective, there are two key things that I want to highlight that the country is currently doing. in the I4C, which is our Indian Cybercrime Coordination Center under the Ministry of Home Affairs, is currently aimed at tackling cybercrime in a more coordinated aspect. So they have a nationwide coordination where they have also come up with a cybercrime reporting portal, which targets, this is an accessible platform. It's something that you can also look up on the cybercrime.gov.in, where individuals can report cybercrimes, including those that are targeting young children, around child pornography, online harassment and exploitation, and cyberbullying. Further, there are also dedicated resources that you can look into that provide you information on how to handle crimes around child abuse and grooming, trafficking, among others. Then from a capacity building perspective, they also provide training to law enforcement personnel, prosecutors, and the judicial officers on how to handle cybercrime investigations. So among this, of course, we do require collaboration with global organizations, so they do ensure that there is best practice exchange with cross-border cybercrime developments. The last thing I want to highlight is the POSCO Act 2012 in India, which is protecting children under 18 from sexual offenses, including abuse, exploitation, and harassment. But I want to highlight the aspect that relates to the digital threats that the children pose. That falls under this act, which mentions that it criminalizes the use of children for creating, distributing, and accessing child sexual abuse material or CSA material, and includes various provisions for online grooming, harassment, and cyber exploitation. Thank you.
All right. Thank you for your interventions in that regard. I don't know if I should probe further, but then for the sake of time, we're going to go further. But I just want to correct an impression. In terms of the terminology, we no longer have child pornography. An abuse is an abuse. A child does not engage in pornography. So as much as possible, let's change out. This is a platform we are educating people. So I just thought that I'll bring that to the fore. So we go with our next round of submissions, but then I'm going to merge the two questions. So if you give us what your country, for instance, what's India doing specifically to promote digital literacy among young people? Then you also tell us what, maybe there's an intervention to leverage on emerging technologies. What are some of those things? So you're giving me two perspectives. You're giving me digital literacy initiatives at country level to empower young people. Because when we're talking about child online safety and we're just talking about protection, we are leaving out the provision and the participation aspect of things. So as much as possible, we need to take care of the 3 Ps as involved in child protection, just to make sure that we're doing the right thing. So much as we are treating the harms and the threats to children, we need to also take care of empowerment. We need to take care of their skill sets in order for them to engage responsibly. So I'm coming to you. I don't know who wants to take it first. I don't want to be biased. Should I put you on the spot? Are you okay? So tell us, what digital literacy initiatives do you have in your country, and what are some of the emerging technology leverages that you're doing in Maldives? Thank you.
In terms of promoting the digital literacy, I think like every other country, we are also still struggling to put the right thing in the right place as a country, because the technology is expanding way too fast, then we can reach it up. But as I mentioned before, my organization, the Women in Tech Maldives, over there, we have a huge role in establishing digital literacy among our people, our country throughout. So we have for kids, it's like that you just can't go and directly reach out the kids. So we have to pass, level by level, like just go and first educate their parents. What are the digital norms? How can you maintain safety? How can you ensure that the network that you are in connected is safe? How can you ensure that your devices are connected to safe networks? How you can ensure the security of the devices that you are eventually giving out to your child to use? So we have programs that we run across the country, that we educate our community, we educate our parents, we educate our students, and I mean the kids, along with the teachers that they are daily life maybe communicating with. So it's not easy, because the whole thing becomes quite new for the community as well, because when we go and say digital spaces, you have this and that over in the digital space, it is harmful. So to identify or to recognize the harmfulness in that particular area is quite challenging for the community people, because obviously not enough literate in the digital space. So to educate, to literate them in the digital space, how they can identify that they are being targeted, how they can actually monitor the devices that the kids are using, how they can ensure the safety. We do run several programs in our place to ensure this safety are maintained within the community itself.
Okay, thank you. Gabriel, we're coming to you, but then I'm also interested in hearing these initiatives that are even in the local language, because sometimes it's not always English that the children understand. Do we have some of them in the local language? Do we have it in an accessible format? Say, taking into consideration children with disability, those initiatives, if they are happening in your country, we would like you to share light on that. Then we can pick lessons from it going forward. We can work with that. Gabriel, over to you. Thank you. Okay, if I don't have Gabriel, could we have Samaila, Nigeria?
Sure. Thanks for that question. So I think the question is in two parts.
Yes.
Maybe I start with maybe what some of the things I know the government has started doing around digital literacy and even emerging tech. I think a few years back there was some efforts to uh, do some level of digitization when it comes to the into the schools we have. So some of these interventions are not necessarily targeted towards just kids. It may also be the older children, right? So I know there's been effort, for instance, to provide power to universities using solar panels so that they can then leverage technologies that are being provided in the school to improve their digital literacy. The current Minister of Communication and Digital Economy has been pushing for a lot of effort around the adoption and familiarity with AI. I know there's a scheme, I think it's the National AI Research Scheme that was launched a few months ago. And there's been other efforts by him to try and pull together resources from the private sector and other places, and even foreign people, to support those efforts. I guess maybe it's a bit soon to say how effective it has been or the results of such interventions, but I know that they exist. And there are others by the National Information Technology Development Agency and other government processors trying to make things work somehow in terms of providing gadgets, because they're not so affordable, providing even internet connectivity to some of these areas outside the main urban areas. I think another laudable effort by the government in Nigeria was when, I think about 3 years ago or so, when the subnational governments, that's the state governments, came to an agreement to reduce the cost of the right of way. That's when, like, the money you pay to lay fiber optic cables, and the goal was to slash the price from about 6,000, I think 6,000 naira from as high as 6,000 naira per meter to a maximum of 145 naira per meter. So, and that's obviously would lead to better internet penetration, because the telecoms companies and the internet service providers can lay their cables to more areas and to spread connectivity to people living outside the urban centers. So I think those are some of the efforts by the government. Generally speaking, from the what will I say, from the civil society perspective, now where I come from, I know quite a number of organizations that are doing different kinds of digital safety, let's say courses or trainings or webinars or sharing flyers, some level of awareness and education. And the goal is just to make sure people do understand more about technology, but also now learn about the security side of things. And I think even from if you look at law enforcement now, there's a bit more knowledge. about electronic crime or online fraud and cybercrime and all that, but also from the digital harms perspective, where we have cyberbullying and online harassment. So there's a bit more knowledge, although we're hoping for better and more widespread awareness and even prosecution and things like that to come on board. I think in Nigeria right now, the main laws that may be used when these things come up have to do with the Cybercrime Act that we have, as well as maybe the Child Rights Act and one or two others. But we're hoping that this issue of digital literacy, from the angle of the laws, of using technology, of being safe online, addressing these different stakeholders, we are hoping that things improve as time goes on. Thank you.
All right, thank you. I would have put you on the spot if you were from government, but it's okay. Gabriel, are you ready?
Yes, I'm ready.
All right.
Yes, thank you. Based on our side, I think Tanzania has been going through a big reform in terms of building its strategy 2050. And they have highlighted the importance of having core agency of youth empowerment in the digital structure empowerment programs. So right now we have a last mile connectivity program where we have tried to have 70% of the country have fiber optic cabling, and these pass through schools, because in our culture, we come from a very oral culture. It's still under the communal side of things to pass on knowledge. So school connectivity has come to heighten more participation of the community, because it has boosted the centers where we are not only equipping children with the digital skills, but now also the teachers and the community members come to interact with technologies, because it is a big strategy that has been pushed by the government. But also in terms of pushing public partnerships, public-private partnerships. Now we have been working with different organizations, example like China Mobile, where they're building a big backbone for connectivity to come to the country, but also with a simple startup which is building a open source technological system called Kai OS. This is in Swahili, and it has all the local initiatives, including access to literacy materials online, and can be used on a simple feature phone. And this has been a project that has been able to reach almost 1 million young people. And with the use of the local language and the community element and a funding mechanism that has some subsidies from the government, it has boosted more inclusion. But in terms of the human rights angle of equipping children's rights, such as privacy and freedom of expression and access to information, we still have a big technical gap, because we are still building quite the foundation of the framework. And if we are to be realistic in this digital realm, the emerging technologies, example, artificial intelligence and the high computational needs, they will need us to really catapult fast. And a big investment has to be made, in the core infrastructure, which is, the young children. And Tanzania also has pushed for a change in competency-based digital literacy skills being part and parcel of every educational program starting from next year. So I think these are things that maybe in 5 years we might see catapulate. But in terms of good policy, I also come from the age where there was a subsidy in connectivity elements, where I also got to enjoy the benefits of cheap connection and affordable internet. This has given me the privilege of addressing you all today. So I think these policy intersections with a very local lens tend to breed fruits.
All right. Thank you. I like the way you situated in this conversation. Do we have you? Can you take the floor?
Okay. So I think a lot of very good points have already been covered. So I was just trying to take a note of what exactly I could add, which is a little more from in terms of the initiatives that are happening.
Okay. So some of the things which have been talked about are happening in India.
Yes.
We need you to reiterate it, because we are looking at countries and what they are doing.
All right. So I think Gabriel also spoke about digital literacy programs. So when we look at India, right, there has been in the last decade, for example, the internet adoption has increased tremendously, and especially with right now we have the unified payment system, payment interface, UPI is what we call it, and a lot of the transactions in the country are online. So I don't mean here I don't talk about just supermarkets, for example, or some kind of transactions with malls. I'm talking about even the street hawkers for that matter. Everybody does transactions through the unified payment interface. So everything is digital. And that brings us to the main concern about, does everybody have the right set of digital skill sets to ensure that they are safe, they are secure, and they're meaningfully accessing the internet in the country. So just recently, we have the National Digital Literacy Mission, NLDM is what we call it. And this initiative was launched to ensure that the citizens, especially those in rural and underserved areas, have the necessary skills to access digital technology and participate overall in the digital economy. But since earlier in the first question that was addressed to me, I spoke about threats. I also want to highlight from a cyber security skill set perspective. There is the Information Security Education and Awareness Program, which is actually a free of cost bunch of courses for you to have the right set of skills to navigate the internet safely. And if you are interested in developing a little more on the technical skills, you might as well do that through the program. One thing I want to highlight is not just having these skills in in English. What we at Youth IGF India, very recently in fact, we had done a partnership with the Women in Tech org, the Northeast chapter. So our idea was to ensure that we teach relevant cybersecurity skill sets to young women in the Northeast of India, in a language that they are comfortable with and content that they are comfortable with, to address their relevant concerns of the region around cybersecurity. So what I've realized in this process of this partnership and among the other initiatives that we've been running as a civil society body, that there are a lot of civil society bodies out there not just focusing on mentoring the young, but also mentoring the educators, the researchers, as well as the judiciary and the police in the country to handle these issues. Thanks.
All right. Thank you. On the note of law enforcement being empowered to do their work, like open mic situations, because I know there are so many expertise in the room. So we will pause the panel session now. My panelists be thinking about one key recommendation to IGF as far as promoting child online safety and inclusion of rights is concerned. So be thinking about that whilst we give the mic to anyone in the room who would like to make an intervention in this regard. Hello?
Hi, I also hail from India, so thank you for putting those points together. I just wanted to make an addition to what she mentioned, that on the efforts by the government in terms of India has, the I4C department has actually adopted a mission to train 5,000 commandos, cyber commandos as well, where they're training these law enforcement agencies to look into cyber cases in India, which also looks into child safety. So that's an addition in terms of what the government is doing. But in terms of population, that's we feel as a civil society organization, that's way too less. But coming from an organization that does a lot of digital literacy programs in India, we do train children about cyber safety from a very young age, basically from children below 6 till up till class 12 as well, to talk about how you need to navigate the digital spaces more safely and securely. Also, the interaction with parents are really high because the whole generational digital divide is one big issue in India. Also, the issue of shared devices. So putting all those together, of course, the missions are way too high, and a lot of civil society organizations along with the government are doing a lot of efforts. But then again, in proportion to the population, I think so it's still way too less. But yes, of course, I'm sure with more efforts and missions, we'll be able to do that.
Thank you. I wish we have the whole day. We would have unpacked teleworking and everything.
I would like to add something, if you allow me.
Who is?
Okay. This is Dr. Jannat.
Jannat, please hold on for us. We have an open mic session now, so just hold on.
Okay.
Hello, everybody. Namaste. I'm from Nepal. I'm Madhav Pradhan. And actually, we are working with the children. We incorporate in the curriculum because in Nepal we have access to the children. How children can safely use internet, and if they are cyberbullying, we are very closely working with the cyber bureau. Cyber bureau is very controlling, and if children have a problem, they can complain in the child helpline. Because in child helpline, if they have a problem, mentally health also link with the hospital, and if they have a online cyberbullying, link with the cyber bureau. That's why we are working. That's going on. And I want to know, other country how they are incorporated in the curriculum, because from 1 class to 12 class, how children can safely use internet, and other content in how to they can complain. That's we are now working in Nepal.
Thank you. In the country I come from, online safety has become part of the lessons for ICT. So from the scratch, they have it as a content that they engage with. So yeah.
Hello, I am from Bangladesh. In Bangladesh, our government has been created a administrative committee for teenagers in locally district level and as well as in central level. In central committee, there are 11 ministries and as well as police, cyber security, crime related agencies are there as well. And in the district level, there are district collector, police super, medical officers, educational officers, and as well as the all um, the society related co-workers are there, and they are actually working for preventing cybercrime for teenagers. So there could be a idea for everyone, so they could do that in locally to prevent cyber crime, cyber bullying perfectly. I guess that could be a idea.
Thank you for your intervention. Janatu, could you speak now? Hello? Whilst we wait for her.
While we wait for her. Thank you so much. And like, I mean, Hita has like added everything, but like, I just very quickly wanted to like come in. Oh, yeah, it's fine now. Yeah, coming on the point that you were mentioning in terms of the local language, right? So one initiative which is very commendable that the Indian government is trying to do is Bhashini. So Bhashini is a AI integrated tool which the government is developing to like actually translate various digital platforms or the digital services into the vernacular languages, so the individuals across India can actually like access them in a more like meaningful way. In addition to that, like also wanted to like mention a little bit when we are talking about digital literacy, it's also important to like look at from the emerging technology perspective. India is like working on something called as a India AI mission, and one of the key pillars is the AI future skills. So where they're actually developing courses and like developing modules within the curriculums of the schools and colleges, and also which is actually within the tier 2 and tier 3 of the cities. And finally, one more point which I wanted to add, like I think like there's a long curve to go in terms of like also sensitizing the government in terms of like enforcement when it comes to all of these aspects when we talk about like child abuse and everything. But government is also like very actively working on that. There's a department within the METI, which is the Electronics and Information Technology Ministry of India, NEGD, which actually looks specifically into like sensitizing how the the public sector can also like understand what's really happening within this ecosystem to act better. Yeah.
Maybe I could just add an international perspective. So I was a delegate to the 93rd Child Rights Convention in Geneva, and the primary issue discussed was, of course, all of these serious issues that your governments have been addressing, but a major overlap is the mental health issues caused by social media to children. So it evolves from false body images to several psychological problems. So, what do these governments do actually beyond just teaching children how to use the internet and how to be safe on the internet from a mental health perspective? That is so an open question.
That's a question. He's talking about what governments are doing. I don't think I'll limit it to just the panelists. Anybody who has the response could take up the mic. What governments are doing in order to safeguard young people from mental health concerns and body image issues.
Thank you. Can you hear me? All right. My name is Mary Uduma. I'm from Nigeria, and the panelists from Nigeria has done some intervention on what has been happening in my country. Apart from the government, there are other organizations, other non-governmental organizations that are also involved in capacity building when it comes to child online protection, as well as advocacy group for the children. And my own organization, Ndukwe Kalo Foundation, we are interested in that, and we do capacity building for teachers, engaging them so that they can also engage the students. And also we're establishing what we call ambassadors within the school setting, so that children, they talk to their peers. They may not speak to the adult, but they can actually confide in their peers. So we're trying to set up that so that it can happen. As for mental health, I'm not sure there's a government organization that is looking at mental health, but it's something we can take back home to make sure that we look at that, to include it in our engagement with the caregivers, the teachers, the parents, and then even the law enforcement agent, and also the healthcare organizations. We'll take that home and we'll try to implement that. Thank you.
Thank you. And let me just reiterate the fact that if country level strategies are being developed using the general comment number 25, all these things would have been taken care of. But if we develop the country strategies without the global standard, it'll be very difficult for us to take care of issues that will come up, and it will not be future proof enough. We will design a solution after 1 year. We'll have to now review it in order to come up with other things. So as much as possible, take the message home. The general comment there for countries to use in order to design solution or strategies that will help protect children effectively in the digital space. Is Janatu available now? Oh, there's a question online. Okay, who is our moderator online then? Are you doing that? I can't see the question.
So the lady's name is Sasha, and her hand has been up.
Okay, Sasha, could you unmute yourself and ask the question?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, I tried to put on the video as well, however, it's not working.
Right.
So my name is Sasha Nandlal. I'm from Trinidad and Tobago. I'm currently in Canada pursuing my PhD, and my comment and question is based around the second point, digital literacy and inclusion, from the perspective of empowering all students within the process of education and retaining their backgrounds, as well as being mindful of their socio-economic standings. And with that in mind, within Trinidad and Tobago, we have the Digital Transformation Project through UNICEF as well. But it's been part of our practice to look at the infrastructure, as it would be with most organizations, and consider the policy, the hardware, and building teacher awareness. And I think that's one of the major parts that we haven't touched on as much is that teachers' attitudes play a role in terms of what morals, values, ethics, and practices are going to be reciprocated throughout the veins of society and the way in which we promote change and change management processes from the generation moving forward. When we consider the formal and hidden curriculum, formal curriculum wise, we consider a systemic approach to it when it comes to concepts that are going to be developed and the skills that are going to be developed from early childhood years to adulthood. Within that hidden curriculum as well, we have to consider the affective domains of the students and the teachers, and how does that bridge of using technology and using and developing a digital literacy for education and the future work environment. How important is that? And the interjection of AI within that equation. So it's a very delicate space to be in. And when we consider accessibility design, in most cases, when it comes to the drive of technology, it starts from the private sector. And most times, private sectors don't consider the user at the center of the element that they're creating. They think about the student after this software has been developed. And now we have to go back and weave those pieces through that technology. And so having a strong relationship between corporate and public sectors when it comes to education would be tantamount to its success. And if we have more grants gathered into that space where we could bridge these gaps, bridge that digital divide, and have technology going from one space of private sector to government sector, we'll find that even the student who didn't have internet at home could still have access to certain ways of learning, whether it be asynchronous, working from that device home and then plugging into the sessions when they come to school. And so accessibility design might be central to that particular field. I just wondered from the speaker's perspective, and from their own personal experiences, how has that perspective of accessibility played into the role of education development when it comes to digital literacy and inclusion? Thank you.
Right. Thank you. You want to take that?
I think I'm sure somebody else would like to take in a deeper way, deeper context, but I'll just give a quick example of how an emerging technology like the Internet of Things, that's something we've used in India to connect with schools. So especially during the COVID time, a lot of the high school science experiments that could be around titrations or focal length, etc., was a project that I worked on, where we worked with a NGO and we also connected with a lot of rural schools in India. They were able to perform the science experiments that was placed in the city, sitting in their schools in the remote part of India. And all they had a dashboard, they had an interface, and in real time they were able to conduct these experiments remotely. And there was a queuing mechanism, and that ensured that even and of course we wanted to ensure there was seamless internet. That is what enabled it. But this is one way to ensure that technology is used in the education sector to ensure that the education is continuous and the learning is continuous. Just wanted to add that. I'm sure somebody else would like to take the question better.
Okay, even if nobody adds anything, her question actually presents the real picture of the complexities involved in doing child online protection. There's no way we can have one stakeholder have all the solutions or have a system that is foolproof. It's important that we come together, we bring collective knowledge, and like she said, sometimes businesses choose profit over protection and well-being. However, if we engage them at the early stage, we all going back to the basics, doing the right thing, we will not have to be there and be retrofitting, but then industry will take into consideration the standard tools in their design and making sure that whatever they're putting forward has the interest of the child at heart and they are doing the right thing. So which is why, again, country level strategies are very, very important. If we have them in place, you can call the industry player to book in order for them to do what they have to do. So we need to take our country level designs very seriously and make sure we are designing them with the right frameworks in mind. So I'll give the panelists the last opportunity. Each of you is giving us a recommendation to IGF going forward as to how we can promote child safety and inclusion in IGF. So, Janatu, are you with us? Okay. Samaila? Gabriel?
Thank you, and that's an interesting question because can you hear me?
Yes, Gabriel.
Hello.
Oh, that's Samaila.
Okay. I think there's a lag on the call, but no problem. I'll still go ahead. So I was just saying that that's an interesting question because I was thinking more from the perspective of the human and societal, let's say, factors that come into play. So let me start with that, and then I give my recommendation. So what I would say is that there are things that are human nature, right? There's that need to interact with people, so you can't stop. Oh, they're obviously curious as well. The other hand too is that what can we do, knowing that they're going to go online at some point, what can we do to either help them? I think we discussed the helping part, but what can we do maybe as parents and guidance to be more aware? I think the first thing is to observe behavior changes. When an outgoing kid, for instance, becomes a bit more reserved or doesn't want to go to a particular place anymore, that should make us ask questions to become more curious. I think we also need to encourage more physical engagement with their peers as opposed to throwing gadgets at them because you just want some peace of mind and things like that. And then obviously that means we should now also limit their screen time as well as take into cognizance the age limits that are set on some of these platforms. We shouldn't be allowing kids that are not up to the right age to be joining some of these platforms because they're just exposing themselves to dangers they don't even understand at the time. Now, that being said, in terms of recommendations, again, I can't speak for government, but I'll speak from the nonprofit perspective. One of my senior colleagues earlier in the hall, Mrs. Mary Uduma, mentioned they're looking into ambassadors in schools. Our association, the Cybersecurity Expert Association of Nigeria, has actually recently launched cyber clubs. And we started with Caleb University, and we're in talks with about 2 other universities as well. And the idea is to help with awareness raising within those environments, because we know that some of these digital harms and security concerns tend to happen in schools. And by virtue of doing that, we're also hoping that we build more interest in cybersecurity, so we have more people hoping to study cybersecurity as opposed to getting involved in cyber harms and digital or cyber crime as well. So those are some of the things we are doing. I think you already gave a key recommendation for the governments or for IGF to push governments to do, which is the adoption of global standards. So I wouldn't talk about that. Thank you very much.
All right. Kindly unmute Gabriel. He's ready to speak.
Thank you very much. For me, my few cents, I would urge everyone in the multi-stakeholder approach to understand that the times we are living in, based on a simple African proverb, is we say that it takes the village to raise a child. But in the internet age, it takes the globe, because it's everybody, almost 5.3 billion nodes, actively engaging, shaping a culture. So everybody in the multi-stakeholder approach, whether policymaker, educator, technologist, academia, we should champion inclusive, culturally grounded, and child-centered digital practices, because this is the only way we can create a digital safer future. We have to understand that childhood is a phase, and in the principles of any community, when a child is born, there's a particular shift in how you interact to ensure that the child gets to be protected and to enjoy sustainability. And this should be extended in our digital scope, that these are the elements that should be highly put in how we decide policy. And this is based on the inclusivity principles. But also, in best practices, we need a lot of public and private partnerships, because this is the only way we could reach localized communities with the telecos, with the academia, also with the society participants in itself, in a very community-driven approach, because local organizations often are the ones who raise our children, and they are the ones who bear as safe guardian people in how they get to evolve. So we should empower them as well. And regional cooperation is still very important because the African Union has a digital strategy, more transformative strategy, and also the Malabo Convention. I think when we use regional integration as well, under strict standards, we can push for our countries to be more compliant in enforcing that a child is a property of all of Africa. And it's our responsibility, a moral obligation that we push for these digital spaces inclusively.
All right. Thank you, Gabriel. Nazar?
Before concluding, I would like to thank Mr. Das for giving us this last-minute opportunity to be among this panel discussion with such insightful things that I'm taking from here, and to give the key recommendation I noted down so that I don't forget that. I just want to mention everything. For IGF, in the context of a developing nation, actually, I would like to mention that to ensure a safer digital environment for our children, for IGF to prioritize on global collaborations to develop localized digital safety resources, so that maybe one of the main component that we were discussing today, that for the local contents that's being used in the social platforms, because that's one thing that all of our countries, I think, are facing. And along with that, I would like to recommend also that to bring out policies or strategies that would actually protect our childs and maybe strengthen the digital literacy among the parents. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. You have...
Right. So first of all, it's been a very incredible panel because I've been constantly noting down points from different countries. Sorry if you've just seen me typing throughout. So there was a point mentioned about technology developments and how that relates to child safety. And I think that is a very critical area of concern that we should all be looking into. So I think from a standardization perspective, since I come from technical community, I think we need more working groups to encourage inclusive and safe tech focused on child safety. And one more recommendation to the IGF would be that the current young people are born into the digital era. So I think more participation or some kind of a prior consultation with school students so that an agenda item is set for the IGF, making sure that their concerns are part of the agenda of the overall multi-stakeholder discussions that take place. Thank you.
All right. Thank you all. I don't know if I should have the last words because we have just 2 minutes to get out of here. So yes, let me add my voice to what has been said by our panelists. Country level strategies are very important and they should be designed based on the right principles stated in General Comment number 25. There's also the need for mandatory and right audit for digital platforms just to ensure that they've taken into consideration rights, privacy and safety by design into consideration. Capacity building for law enforcement agencies just to make sure that they are prosecuting what needed to be prosecuted. Digital literacy and awareness programs for children and parents to position them well enough. And there should be a global accountability mechanism which will take into consideration what countries are doing, and if a country is not up to date, you can indirect name and shame for countries that are not working to protect children. And then there's the need for inclusivity in policy making. And maybe the last one, I would say that maybe the next IGF, we should be having the voice of children in the room and not being represented by youth or adults. That's my last. On this note, thank you so much for enduring us, and then we are grateful, and we hope that this discussion will be carried forward in our various countries and spaces, and we become ambassadors for child protection in the digital space in our various endeavors. Thank you. God bless you.
Thank you. Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye. You see, you have been forgotten. Thank you. Thank you, Gabriel. Thank you, Janatu. And thank you, Samaila.